Hey folks, Trubie here again to talk to you about Dice Masters. Been meaning to get back in here for a little bit to talk about the team I ran for our Golden Age event. This was 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to do that today. But before I get to that, usual store business. This Sunday, our modern event will be the Exiles OP event. For those of you who don't know what OP events mean, it's a special event where you get a in this case, it's the Exiles OP, so you'll get special Exiles cards where you get the cards, but the dice were available in the X-Men First Class set. There's an alternate art for Blink, and then 2 completely different new cards for Morph and Sabretooth. So come in this Sunday, get those cards. They're pretty awesome. But now that to the today's main event, just trying to get right into it. So this Golden Age event, I decided to take a Immortals team. And I wanted to just go through the team, talk about what worked, what didn't work, what I'd change, and basically how it went. So overall, I went 2-1. Not bad, but not as good as I would have liked to have done. The team sort of just didn't work out the way I wanted. Just as I was playing it, I found a few issues, but I'm going to talk about those now. So first off, my basic actions. For my basic actions, I ended up going with Speedy Delivery and Unstable Canister. Mostly because I expected to have lots of extra Bolt energy because I was going to be using Bolt Swarm. And so with the Speedy Delivery, I can pump my my Immortal characters so they do more damage. And Unstable Canister, use the bolts to clear out blockers so I can get my Immortals in more easily. That was the hope, at least. But yeah, from there, we'll go to our first 2 characters on this team. So, one of the issues with Immortals is they're expensive. To help that out, we have Jane Foster here, who's an ally, and while Jane Foster is active, your character dice with Immortal cost 2 less to purchase. That helps a lot, because our cheapest Immortal on this team is a 5 cost, and yeah, so having her to bring them down to a 3 cost is a big deal. The issue I had with her is if you miss that first roll of her and she goes to energy, you sort of get stuck in the mud. Still, I like her. This is definitely the must-have for the team. There's also a Yornbjorn that reduces purchase costs, but I wanted the uncommon Yornbjorn, which we'll get into in a little bit. And also I used Chingwa for Swarm. This is the rare Chingwa, which has one fielded effect when it attacks. When it attacks, it gets +1 attack. But more importantly, it has when Chingwa is KO'd by non-combat damage, prep a die from your bag. I like this because Swarm generally does not go well when you have Magic Missile / Unstable Canister on the field. But Chingwa here, when you have her on her, I don't know if it's a her, when you have it on the field, and your opponent's like, oh, I don't want you to swarm, I'm going to blast it, well, still get to prep a die. So you're not, if they're fighting to keep your swarm from happening, they're still helping you out. And if for some reason you know that your next 4 dice aren't going to be a swarm character, just ping it off of yourself, prep a die, and yeah, it gets knocked out, but you get more energy next turn. So it works out. I actually really like this card. I thought it was really great for this team. But now let's go off to our next 2 cards on the team. So next we needed our win conditions. For that we did Yornbjorn, where character dice with Immortal gain +2/+2 and gain Overcrush until end of turn. All of our Immortal characters are pretty darn big to begin with, and giving them +2/+2 and Overcrush is pretty great. But we also had Sif here, who has Immortal, and Sif gets +1/+1 for each different character die with Immortal you control. So if I have, so we've already seen 4 of the characters on this team. If I have my other 4 characters who are all Immortals, if I had all those on the field with Sif, she'd get +4/+4. Potentially pretty big. I never actually got her above +2/+2, but that's mostly because just the team didn't quite turn out the way I wanted to. But still, these 2 together was a definite must-have. I also found, like, she having the 112 fielding costs was very helpful, because one of the big issues I found with this team is the fielding costs. Because you will, so Immortal, when you attack, or basically whenever the die, whether it's spent or when you attack, when it would go to the used pile, other than when you buy it, it goes into your bag instead. So the problem you have there is there's a chance you're going to be drawing like all Immortal dice and maybe one sidekick. So if you're rolling 4 dice, 3 of them are characters with fielding costs of 112, there's a really good chance you are going to roll badly, like I did quite a bit. Roll like 3 of them on level 3 with the 2 fielding cost, and only 1 energy to field those. Yeah, you're sunk. Nothing quite that bad ever happened, but there were quite a few times where I had to choose one Immortal character over another, and it was usually Sif I opted to field. But let's go on to the next 2 characters. So next, we had our first bits of responding to what my opponents had. So first off, we had Fandral. He actually turned out even better than I expected. When Fandral attacks, the opposing character with the highest purchase cost must block him. So generally, that's going to be your opponent's most desired thing to have out on the field. And that generally is what happened. I was able to slow my opponents down enough with Fandral just attacking every turn, and usually their big thing had to block him. Also, with a combination of Fandral and Sif and Magic Missile, I'd be able to ping off their like weenie characters who'd be able to block Sif, attack with Fandral and Sif. Fandral would tie up the highest purchase cost character, who is usually the one I wouldn't be able to ping off with Magic Missile, and then Sif would get through for damage, and then she'd go back into my bag. I'd draw her next turn, bring her back out, and wash, repeat. So that part of it worked pretty well. Then we also had Loki here, who actually never came up. I mean, I did buy him one game, but he just the one time I had him out, he didn't do a lot for me. There was only like one turn where I sort of misplayed him. I could have used him better, but yeah, he's Immortal again, and yeah, those foils are hard to read sometimes. While Loki is active, let me get the actual card because I can't read the off the screen here. Yeah, while Loki is active, whenever a global ability is used, any player may pay Bolt to cancel it. Now, any player. So if you have it out and you go to use Magic Missile or something, your opponent can pay a Bolt to prevent you from blasting. The reason I went with him is to counteract this was Golden Age, so I got him out to counteract my old nemesis, Professor X. But of course, I never faced Professor X. I figured I would have more bolts than my opponent would have masks, or at least I'd have enough to slow them down, and then I'd still get full use of Professor X as long as they didn't hold on to bolts, and I was hoping Chingwa would give me the bolt advantage. But yeah, that never actually came into play. I did, however, use him a couple times to prevent the new Professor X global, the one where you can pay a mask to field sidekicks. One of my opponents was running a psychic team, so that was sort of a necessary thing. I didn't use it as well as I could have, though. That was my first game, and I was still getting my feel for the team. So, yeah, I could have done better, but oh well. But let's move on to our last 2 characters on this team. So I still needed more Immortals, I felt. So I went for Thor here. Because, yeah, it's a Thor set. Should have a Thor. But she ended up not being very good. So, Immortal. Thor cannot be damaged by villain character dice or action dice. And pay shield. Target attacking character die goes to the used pile if KO'd this turn. That global never came into effect. And there were many times where I could have bought her, but I didn't, because that fielding cost, the 1, 2, 3, was scary, and for her attack stats, it just wasn't worth it. I would much rather have gotten another Sif than pay for that, so that's generally what I did. However, I do know something I should have replaced it with, and I'll get to that in 1 second. But then I had Heimdall here, who, once again, the really hard to read text. He's immortal. Yeah, I think I can go him explain him without reading. When I field him, I can draw a die from my bag. If it's a mortal die, I can field it at level 1 for free. Yeah, I thought I'd be able to read it. When fielded, draw a die. If it is a character die with immortal, field it for free at level 1, otherwise prep it. So, so I thought Heimdall is pretty good. He has the global that is the neutered Professor X global, where you can pay a mask during your turn to move 2 dice from your use piles to the prep area. More often than not, I only really got good use out of that on my 3rd turn, but that was on the 2nd turn. But that was usually good enough. They gave me some early purchase power, and then I would occasionally get Heimdall again, but not that often. Him and Swarm don't really cooperate very well because Swarm, I'm just constantly filling my bag and things are cycling. So, but still, I was glad I had him. It was enough to get me that little boost to begin with to try to buy all my low cost characters and get the engine going. He was like a little boost for the engine. So going back to Thor here, I did not like Thor. I thought that was a bad fit for this team. And when we did a Thor draft this past Sunday, and I realized when my sister was playing her, I should have gone with Hela here. I bulked at her because of the 7 cost, but really, 7 cost isn't that bad when I'm already reducing it by 2. And while Hela is active, your character dice have Immortal. So I completely missed the opportunity to have Immortal swarming Chingwas. That kind of stinks. Because, I would have been able to just buy Chingwas, magic missile. I spend all that, goes in the bag, draw Chingwas, swarm, and just keep that going and going and going. And I'm disappointed in myself for not playing with her, because that 7 cost wouldn't have been that bad. And also, going back to my basic actions, speedy delivery really didn't do a lot for me because with the Bjorn already giving the immortal characters +2, they're already having these great stats, and they're overcrushing. Another couple boosts from the speedy delivery global wasn't doing a whole lot for me. It wasn't that good. I don't think I ever actually used it in any of my games. The game I lost, it got used against me. So there you go. I actually think the better fit on this team would have been big entrance. I generally don't like big entrance very much. I don't use it very often because I feel like it basically gets in the way late game. But with the costs of these characters, I think it would have been useful the entire game. And then with Jane Foster already reducing by 2, and if I had a big entrance, that brings Hela down to 3, or down 3 to 4, completely affordable. And missed opportunity. I wish I would have done that instead. But now let's take one last look at the full team here. As soon as that transfers over. So there's the team. That is what I played with. I thought it worked pretty well. I wasn't totally in love with it. It feels a little slow. I don't think this is a super high-end tier 1, world's competitive team, but it's fun and I liked it. I do recommend trying to play it. However, I also recommend going with the fixed iteration without that Thor, where it is instead Hela in that 8th slot. I think that would work a lot better. In Modern, if it's an event that's not using the Yanti Pureblood and Cosmic Cube combo, this could actually work out. This team's not optimal. I don't have enough protection from things like the Yanti Pureblood. I'm not making meta corrections. So you could actually take a couple things out here. Maybe go with instead of Loki and Heimdall, maybe drop them and put in Shriek and the Scarlet Witch, who makes your opponent have to reroll basic or actions multiple times. That might be enough to slow everything down. That'd give you more bolts. That might actually be the good fix to make this a little bit more competitive. I still like the team. Recommend the team. It's fun to play. And that's all I gotta say. So next week, Modern. I'm thinking I might try the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Try that team. Once again, looking at it, doesn't look like it has as much synergy as this one. I think this one was a lot more fun. But Brotherhood, there's still a couple things in there I want to try out, and I find, the couple of pieces that I really like in there are enough to make me just throw the whole team together for fun and see those couple pieces that I want, like the Scarlet Witch and the Rare Avalanche, if those are good enough to be moved into a higher tier team. But hope this is informative to you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you guys on Sundays. Till next time.